All right. Hey, good evening to our friends on the West Coast, and good evening to our friends on the East. And welcome. This is another segment of Groove Swing Speaks. Got a very special show for you tonight, and I want you to hang in there. And you still have time to call your friends, okay? Call your friends or text them. Tell them to join us on Facebook, LinkedIn. You can use our stream, our live stream, rather, and that is Studio W The Buzz, Studio W The Buzz, Global Radio. Also available on Alexa, Apple CarPlay, Apple. Just go to the your Apple App Store and download Studio W, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're all over the place. So check it out and welcome again to Groove Swing Speaks. We come on each and every Tuesday this time. Like I said, 4 p.m. on the West, 7 p.m. on the East. And we try to bring you topical issues that impact our society and also show the excellence in our culture. Hey, welcome to the set. Brother Robert Hicks. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today, boss?
Doing great, man. Doing great, doing great. This is Black History Month, and we're going to showcase that. We even have some Black history in our own family here, the Groove Swing family. We're going to showcase that as well. You're going to hear names throughout the month, like Bessie Coleman, the first female Black pilot here in the United States. As a matter of fact, at that time, she couldn't even get a patent in the U.S., so she had to go to France to get it. So you're going to hear about that. Charles Frederick Payne. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with that name or not. This brother, months before the Wright brothers obtained their patent, this brother obtained his. And he created his own airplane and he sent it to the, what is that, festival that shows off aircraft and things of that nature. I'll get to that in a little bit. But anyway, the prize there, if he had won the prize, it would have been $100,000 back then. This was in the early 1900s, 1906, I believe. And today that would be worth $1 million. Somehow his plane never reached the location or the site. We'll talk about that. Charles Drew. If you know anyone who had a blood transfusion, or if you had one, you got Brother Charles Drew to thank for that. Daniel Hale Williams, you're going to hear about that, the first successful heart transplant. Let's see. Henry T. Sampson created the first cell phone. Katherine Johnson, critical calculations for NASA. And Robert, you may know something about her. She did critical calculations for NASA and the first and subsequent U.S. Crewed flights, in outer space. Garrett Morgan in 1923 invented the traffic light. Elijah McCoy, you heard the term the real McCoy. Well, he was able to find lubrication for a railroad. Now, what do I mean by that? Back when the rail system first came out, they had to stop every so many miles because they had to let the brakes cool off because they didn't have a lubricated system, and he created that. So we've got a lot of that to talk about. So tell your friends, man, to tune in tonight. We still have time. We have a special guest that's coming up. She's going to come up at the half hour, and we're going to talk about mental illness. And I have a little history on that as well. On the subject of Black history, do you have any information you want to share with the audience, Robert?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you everyone for joining in tonight. And also, we also send a special invitation also to our fans who are listening over in Ghana. Right now, it's midnight over there in Ghana, but where else we talk about Black History Month, but then talking about the real origins of Black history as from the motherland itself.
That's
So
right.
we just want to say we are on at 12 a.m. GMT for those who are listening in Ghana on that side of the pond, as they probably say over there, the ocean, really. So, so one thing we actually came across was kind of interesting, and is if and looking in here in basically in the area of Maryland, I came across this one name I might know a little bit about. His name is Honest W. Kane Jr. Now, that name doesn't sound familiar as a well-known Black history fact, but this really caught my attention. Honest Kane Jr. was a hero for Pocomoke City on Maryland's Eastern Shore. Born in January 31st, 1932, Kane worked tirelessly to end segregation in Pocomoke City. Kane was the lead among a group of activists who pursued a history-making lawsuit bearing his name that remains one of the most cited precedents in voting rights litigation in Maryland today. Basically, the case of Kane v. Worcester County, that hard-fought case challenged the at-large election system that had locked Black people out of Worcester County office for 250 years.
Wow.
Think about that. 2.5 centuries that Black people could not be in that specific, in that town. But basically, it led to the election of the first county's Black commissioner in 1995. So think about that. For 250 years, Black people were shut out of it, shut out basically being able to vote, not represented. And then 1995 came around, so not too long ago, literally about 30 years
Right.
ago. And now the first Black commissioner was in Worcester County.
You know, that's pretty amazing stuff. That's pretty amazing stuff. I want to welcome to the set, Nakaya. We'll see. Nakaya?
I'm here. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Ripping and running around. So sorry, I'm in my car. I was trying to change my background, but it is not letting me.
Okay. Oh, well, that's okay. That's okay. We'll take care of that. We'll take care of that a little bit later on. And I'm sure you've heard some of this. And we want to celebrate Black history. And we talked about it a little bit. We have
Celebrating Black history with my shirt on right now.
absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we're going to bring this thing close to home too, because I have three people in the very beginning I want to showcase, and they are, let's see, one is a groove, and one mother has two swing daughters, and let's see, and we've also had, you know, this brother, G.K. Butterfield. We had him on this program as well. And so this is right in our groove swing family. So we want to showcase them. And throughout, I was mentioning earlier, I'm going to repeat myself. Throughout the month, you're going to hear names like Bessie Coleman, Charles Frederick Payne, Charles Drew, Daniel Hill Williams, Henry T. Sampson, Katherine Johnson, let's see, and Garrick Morgan, and more, many, many, many more. And so, folks, I know it's very important that we celebrate Black history and remember our history. I know when I hear stories about these things or these trailblazers, you know, I get excited and I get motivated. Can you imagine some young child growing up in our community may hear some of these stories and might decide that, oh, I want to get into aviation. I would like to be a doctor. I want to be a researcher. I want to be a builder, an architect, or whatever it is. And this is what we try to bring to the set each and every week. Nakaya, do you have anything or anyone you want to showcase or talk about as far as Black history is concerned? Anybody come to mind?
There's a lot. There's a lot that's for Black History Month. I can go ahead and look on my shirt right here. A lot of what's on my shirt right now is actually kind of like Egyptian mythology. So we have like Queen Nefertiti, and then we have King Tut.
Yes.
I'm not sure if everybody knows, but I was actually I kind of looked into a lot of the Egyptian like history, and I found out something that was very interesting, that it shows conflict. So they know that Queen Nefertiti is supposed to be the mother of King Tut, right?
Right.
Well, there are studies that show that she's actually kind of like the stepmother. There was a lady named Queen. They called it Queen Kaya, but she was not of royalty blood, and she is the mother of King Tut. And because she was not of royal blood, they pretty much kept her out of all of the I would say like the pamphlets or like just
Mhm.
pretty much out of history, and they pretty much put King Tut under Queen Nefertiti, and they kind of kept that on the hush hush. Now they are trying to find a lot of like information to actually back that up, but I found that pretty interesting.
Well, I tell you, it's a lot of there's a lot in our history that needs to come to the forefront, and there are powers to be or powers out there that, and I'm not, and they want to take away our history, and you have to ask the question: why would you erase history or even change it? And there's
To
a
hide
reason
the
for
truth.
to hide the truth. Okay, because you guys already know we weren't born then, but there was a time in this country where black people weren't allowed to read or go to school. And if you look at our history, we have a rich history in education. Anything that has to do with our survival on this planet, we've had a hand in it, if not built it ourselves. For instance, a lot of people, about the Moors. Well, the Moors really taught the Europeans how to be civilized. They really did. They taught them about hygiene, for instance. Over in France, they weren't even bathing. That's why they came up with perfumes and colognes and stuff like that. Can you imagine that? Never bathing and you just squirting on perfume and colognes and oh boy,
Oh, some
That's a
French
mixture of
actually still do that
smells.
today. They don't bathe at all for some reason.
I was told they don't use deodorant.
And that thing, I
right,
said some, I did not say all.
right. Yeah, absolutely. So, and you're so right about that. And so, I mean, something as simple as taking a bath, or of course, they may not have had showers then, but something as simple as taking a bath, okay? But also providing them information on how to create and develop their own their infrastructure that came from the Moors, right? And so we're going to get into all of that this year. We're going to do that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to bring this home here, and let's see, who do I have up first? Let's see what we have. And like I said, we have Brother G.K. Butterfield. What an amazing man! He happens to be a groove. We have Verna May Canson. Now, Verna May has two daughters, uh, and they are both swings. That is Deborah. No, let's see, Faith Canson. Do we have Faith Canson on one time, Robert? Was Faith on?
I believe that we did. I'll have to check
Okay,
the archives,
okay. And
which
then we
everybody can do by looking at Groove Swing Speaks on Spotify. Take a look through the YouTube channel and go back to the archives. We have many different shows, so take your idea to take a look to see the progression of the show, as well as might be picked up on something that you might have missed.
right. We're also going to talk about Clarence Leitner, and he has two daughters that are swings. That is Deborah and Aaron Leitner. So we're going to start with that. Why don't we do that? We're going to pull up something. Let's see what we have here. But in the meantime, let's see. Nakai, jump in there. If anything you want to say, just let's start with Clarence Leitner. Anything you want to say before I drop this?
No, go right on ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, let's do this. All right. You guys can see the screen. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes.
Okay. Clarence Everett Leitner, born August 15th, 1921. Oh boy, he passed away in July 8th, 2002, was an American politician and mortician, a member of the Democratic Party. He served as mayor of Raleigh, North Carolina from 1973 to 1975. He was the first popular elected mayor of Raleigh since 1947. That's amazing. And the first African American elected mayor of mostly white, let's say, mayor Southern City in the United States. Leitner was born in 21, and like I said, in Raleigh. He attended North Carolina Central College. He played as a quarterback on the high school or the school football team. Let's see, okay, college football team. After graduating, he enlisted in the United States Army and served on tour of duty during World War II. World War II, that was very interesting because I did a show this past Sunday, and we were talking about the Tuskegee Airmen and the Red Tails specifically, who flew over, let's see, well over 1,500 83 missions, I believe. Okay, I need to fact check that, but and then they had 1,533 sorties. Now, if you guys don't know what a sortie is, the sorties, they were the group of pilots, all black, basically, that escorted the bomber jets through World War II. And check this out, folks. Not one casualty, zero casualties, and they should be celebrated. You may have heard in the news that this current administration, they're trying to take that out of the Navy training, Air Force training manuals. Why would you do that? And I'm so glad that the Air Force pushed back on it. This is no, we're not taking that out. There was one in the training manual, it was about women pilots, and I think they were called WASP, weren't they?
Yes.
WASP.
Yes.
And you had the Red Tails, and they all came from Tuskegee Institute. Let's see. Let's get back to Brother Leitner. He subsequently enrolled in Eccles College of Mortuary Science, and in 1959, he assumed control of his father, Calvin E. Leitner's funeral home. He was elected to the Raleigh City Council in 1967, and during his council tenure, he chaired a committee tasked with studying mass transit, and for one term acted as mayor pro tempore. And 1973, he launched his candidacy for the office of mayor, backed by a coalition of blacks who comprised of less than 16%. Now, this was quite a feat back then, if you think about this. Okay, that means that 84% weren't black. Okay, but he was managed to secure that. In all, registered voters and white suburban residents were growing increasingly concerned about urban sprawl. Leitner won the November election, surprising observers and garnering national media attention. During his mayoral tenure, the city council bolstered floodplain construction regulations, rejected large road construction projects, and instituted a mass transit system. I'm just going to finish this out. Through Leitner's service, he was largely uncontroversial. Members of his family were marred by legal troubles. His reputation suffered as a result. He placed last in the mayoral primary election in 1975. In 1977, he was appointed to fill the vacant North Carolina State Senate seat for the 14th District, serving through 1978. He chaired the Southeast Region Improvement Commission from 1993 to 2001. He later died in 2002. Okay, any comments? Nikaya? Oh,
To say that there was no deaths during the aviation, that's intense. That's like a big accomplishment, because I'm just thinking of like a lot of the crashes that we're having like currently right now within like the last like few days. It's very detrimental. So to successfully do that, that's a big win.
It is. Hey, Tiffany, how are you? Welcome to the set.
Hey guys, hola.
Hola.
Hey, darling. We were talking about the father of two of your swing sisters. I'm not sure whether you know Deborah Leitner and Aaron Leitner or not, but we just talking about talked about their father's legacy. Amazing, and how he was elected to mayor in a predominantly white region with 16% black population, right? And that it was unheard of back then. And I'm not sure, Robert, and maybe you guys can help me out a little bit. And
hold on, William. That's so those are my chapter sisters, and that's Deborah Leitner's father and Aaron's grandfather.
Yes, you're right. You're 100% correct. Thanks for that. Thanks for correcting me on that. I love being fact checked. I really love it. You know, some people don't like to be fact checked, but I do, because we want to get this thing right. You're exactly right. Aaron's grandfather. That is absolutely amazing stuff. There is a black man in one of these. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly where it is. Robert, maybe you know. It's in one of these southern states. I'm not sure whether it's North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, or whatever it is. But he was elected mayor over 2 years ago. they still will not let him in his office.
I have to do a little bit of checking, but yes, it sounded like is a southern state. So
it is definitely a southern state. And I mean, how crazy is that? You are duly elected, but you cannot get in your office. You have been blocked from your office, folks. So you would think
it looks like it's South Carolina.
Is it North Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. That is crazy. I mean, you would think this is 2025. You would think it's 1925. The things that
I thought they finally let him in. They didn't let him in. I thought they did let him in by now.
Did they? I'm not. The last I heard. Now this is going back several months. I know for almost 2 years he was not let in. If they did, I haven't heard. Robert, do you have any updated information on that? If so, we'll talk about it in a little bit. But you have to understand something. And like I mentioned earlier before, there was a time in this country when we weren't allowed to read. So when I first found out about that several years ago, the first question comes to mind, Nikai, why? If you are superior, if you are smarter, if you are more qualified, why should it matter whether I can read or not? Unless you know the opposite is true. And this is what we try to do here. We want to bring information that's going to inspire, enlighten, and motivate people. Okay? And I would love for each of you out there in the audience, tell your children to listen into this program. It's only an hour on Tuesdays, but they'll learn so much. And now, they're talking about, well, we want to get rid of critical race theory. We want to get rid of DEI. We want to get rid of, affirmative action. And you have to understand something. And I have a question for you. Who has benefited more from DEI? What group of the population, or what segment of the population has benefited most from DEI and affirmative action?
Believe it or not, and it's kind of interesting when you do hear about that, especially when it comes down to a lot of the Title IX that comes across with various different laws.
Mm-hmm.
The group that actually benefited a lot was women.
White women.
White women.
White women.
Basically, black women as well, but white women mostly. So when we consider the fact that a lot of these programs are now being removed, it also is affecting the sense of white women being in the workforce.
That's right.
So really, when people are saying, "Oh, DEI is going to mostly the new Negro word," basically, but really it isn't. It's going to affect pretty much an entire gender. You're literally eliminating half of a population.
That's right.
Really.
That's right.
And for what reason? To say that if that's the case, that competent white men, Anglo-Saxon men, are going to be filling these positions, based on the past couple of weeks, I'd rather hire a sister. I'd rather hire a brother in these positions versus anybody else. Especially if we have the better qualifications, if we have everything in order, then I would say better myself, better Nakaya, better Tiffany than anybody else.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, Robert, I'm glad you said that. There's been studies done. And the companies who really embrace DEI initiatives and DEI programs, they're more profitable.
Right.
They are more profitable. That is an absolute fact. That's an absolute fact. So anyone who is non-black, non-white, they want to get rid of any program. And I asked some of these Bible thumpers that says, "Oh, I love the Lord. I love Jesus. And I asked him, I said, oh, really? Do you really? I
And
said,
we
"Do
have
you
a
know-"
pastor on the call, and I'll defer to that portion of the question to her. So,
Yeah.
I can definitely continue.
And it says, yeah, I love the Lord, my Savior. I said, well, did you know that Jesus was pro DEI? Oh, no. Really? You think about his teachings. Oh, okay. That's pro DEI. Pro DEI. And they have bastardized the acronym. And we know what it stands for, diversity. Well, the society is diverse. Isn't this a diverse society, whether you like it or not? Okay. Equity. Shouldn't everyone join in on that? And what about inclusion? And I was challenged this past Sunday, and one of my co-hosts was saying, well, there was a time when white men couldn't get a job, being firefighters. Really? I looked it up, and the percentage of firefighters in the United States, 80% are white. Doctors, 5.7% of doctors are black. Okay, because there was a time when we weren't allowed to be doctors. Okay, so we have you can, and so what it is, if you look at brothers or sisters in any of those positions, they excel. However, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it doesn't say that you're going to get the job because you're black. And this is the myth that's been spread, is that you got the job because you're black. Really? No. It only gives you an opportunity, okay, to get that interview. Many of you who are in sports, you know something about the Rooney Rule. Okay, ladies, you may know about it, and Robert, you probably know about it as well. I'm sure you do. And the Rooney Rule was the saying that the NFL had to interview black coaches because at one time black men weren't even allowed an interview. So they put in the Rooney Rule. They had to do that. And that didn't mean that that black man or black coach was going to get the job. It means he had a chance to interview. That's what it means. And see, these companies out here, they're going to, if they're really not so hung up on politics, they're going to hire the best person. I'll give you an example. I used to be a broker for Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter. I hate to pull out those names because they aren't giving us any. They're not buying any spots here. So, but anyway, and I didn't get that job because I was black. I got that job because I was able to pass a series of exams, very, very difficult exams to be a stockbroker. Because I saw many people, and the passing rate for that particular exam, especially Series 7. So what is a Series 7? That means that I could sell stocks, bonds, mutual funds, so forth and so forth on, right? And the success rate is less than 50% to pass that exam. And I was told that the bar exam is the toughest exam you can take, and the Series 7 is the next toughest you can take. And I'm going to tell you, it is a beast. It is a beast. It's something I never, ever, ever, ever want to take again. Thank God I don't have to, you see. But we have to understand our history. We have to. And it still is in our children. How many of us have children or grandchildren, and we are educating them as far as the history is concerned? We must do it. On our programs here on The Buzz, we are going to do it. We are going to, okay? And I hope that other outlets like ours will continue to do the same, because they're trying to erase the history books. Let's go to, I've got something else I want to share with you. And this particular, this sister right here. Okay. Verna May Canson. Okay, Verna May Canson. Okay, that's the mother of Faith Canson. She's a swing also. And I was asking Robert earlier. I believe we had her on the show. On the show. But let me give you a little background on her. Civil rights activist Verna Mae Canson was born in Bridgeport, Oklahoma. I'm gonna stop right there for a second. Okay. Everybody, well, most of us should know about Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. Okay. And you talk about, well, or they say, well, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, there were over Oklahoma. It wasn't the only one. Oklahoma wasn't the only Wall Street, Black Wall Street. There were over 128. As a matter of fact, there was one here in Richmond, Virginia. And so they destroyed that and they put up projects. So you guys understand the dynamic there. I know you do. The dynamic there. Okay. Well, you put a bunch of people all together. You take away the resources. Okay. You take away the opportunities. And what do you have? We know what happens. And it's still happening today. Okay. Let's see. Let's get again. Verna Mae Canson was born in Bridgeport, Oklahoma, to William A. Oh, that's my name, William A. And Eula Gross Dobson. On June 10th, 1921, both of her parents were school teachers. She grew up in Lima, or is it Lima, Oklahoma, and a mostly African-American town where her father served as mayor. Verna Dobson graduated from high school in 1938 and then studied home economics at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. There she met Clarence Canson, who married in tailoring at the Institute. They married in 1940 and returned to the bridegroom's home in Sacramento, California. During World War II, Verna Canson helped some African Americans in Sacramento gain employment at Safeway. Do they have Safeways here? Grocery stores.
Safeways is out in Washington. I know that, but they don't have it in California.
Okay, then. Wow.
They do have some. Well, they do have some in Maryland.
Okay. They did have them in Richmond. I don't see them here anymore. Okay. Let's see. Employment at Safeway, Pacific Telephone, and other companies. She also served as a youth advisor to the local chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Today we know that as NAACP. I wish they changed that. National Association for the Advancement of Black People. Let's do it that way. Okay. In the early 1950s, Canson organized biannual summits of the NAACP at the state capitol. The summits led to the establishment of a civil rights division within the office of the California Attorney General. Let's read on a little bit. In 1954, Canson became the treasurer / manager for the local NAACP credit union. Okay, she made housing finance and other loans available for minority families. Residential education was also of a concern to her. She helped the NAACP attorneys prepare lawsuits that challenged the discriminatory policies of the Sacramento Public Housing Authority. Several housing projects in the city were desecrated. Is that desecrated in the late 1950s, at least in part because of their efforts? You see what I'm talking about? Let me read that again. Several housing projects in the city were desecrated in the late 1950s.
Oh, that's a desegregated.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Basically, the idea of the projects basically think about this. In the town, in the time, pretty much
there's integration.
Black and white.
Right.
But then they became all integrated.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, sister.
After the Watts riots in Los Angeles in 1965, Canson was appointed a credit union specialist in the California State Office of Economic Opportunity. She went to a new service center in Watts to assist in the financial rebuilding of the district. The center was seen as a pilot program, but she persuaded the community activists to expand the office and help them write proposals for service centers in other low-income areas. 28 offices were added from Riverside County. I know that area well. to San Francisco. Dekai knows that area as well. Canson left Watts in 1967 and joined the California Committee of Fair Practices as a state lobbyist, a position partially financed by the West Coast office of the NAACP. She pushed hard for economic and social legislation to protect low-income families. When Leonard H. Carter, who directed the NAACP West Coast office, died in 1974, Canson was appointed to the post. She trained new managers of the local NAACP chapters and campaigned for affirmative action. Robert, would you take over reading the rest of this? It's just a little bit. And it starts with policies.
Yes.
Let's see, I stopped at affirmative action.
Right. And she trained new managers of local NAACP chapters and campaigned for affirmative action policies to give people of color equal access to employment. Basically, the idea of everyone had the opportunity to be able to get the same opportunities and abilities and being able to make sure that they are employed. Got that, Clarence Thomas? Moving on. She also helped start a national academic Olympics for African American high school students, because academics are an important part of who we are. We are all smart. The idea is being able to show that to the masses, is saying that we can compete at the same level too. And a lot of us have been involved in some academic Olympics over the time. Canson put correspondence, internal memoranda, and other NAACP material into an archive and donated it to the Bancroft Library at the University of California, Berkeley in 1978. 6 years later, the library added her civil rights story to its oral history collections. When you take a look back on a lot of the history that we have, some of it is basically has been taught, it has been talked, it has been verbally expressed over the years. And being able to pick that up now, at this time, they have the whole history spoken and collected so people could hear it, so that people can infuse it and basically feel at one with it, which is important.
Absolutely.
Canson retired from the NAACP in 1988. Canson passed away in her home in Sacramento on April 14, 2003 at the young age of 81, survived by her daughter and son.
Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. Let me see. I think that's the end of it, isn't it, Robert?
Yes, it is.
Okay, very good, very good, very good. Nakai, did you have anything you want to jump in and say about this?
No, I was just reading it. I actually pulled it up myself and I was reading along with you guys, and it's just like, wow, she pushed hard for economic and social legislation, like for people that are not well off, as far as their income. So it's beautiful. And to see how far she's done it, like you said, I know the Riverside County area, but to go from San Francisco as well, that's a ways. So like she definitely made some moves. So that's a big thing.
And you see, and so like I said, a lot of our history has been wiped out. But can you imagine if more of our young people, and even I'm talking about elementary school, middle school, high school, if they knew more about their history? Because when I hear things like that, I get inspired. I definitely get inspired, and I can understand. You can see how someone may say, "Wow, that person looks like me, and they accomplished this." This is the whole purpose of it, and that's the reason why you have so many people that are actively trying to erase our history. I mean, we can go back. Oh my God!
I think we're a threat. We're a threat to society. Not even a bad way, but it's just like, you got to think, like, everything that they have thrown at us, whether it was scraps, whether it was tattered clothing, we've made it into royalty attire. We made scraps into full-size dinners.
Mm-hmm.
They've taken away a lot of jobs from us, and they said, well, you need higher education. Boom, we get higher education. We get
Mm-hmm.
degrees. We get bachelor degrees, master's, PhDs.
That's right.
And it just seems like whenever they put kind of like a ceiling on us, we expand that ceiling. And it's
We
like
bring.
they kind of it's like almost like a repetitive or like a redundant process that goes on. And it just shows that we persevere. We are resilient. We're impervious to whatever they dish at us. We continue to grow and continue to strive. And I just hope and pray that we continue not to gatekeep. We continue to share our knowledge. We share our history with amongst our culture and our community, because as you can see, they're trying to take slavery out of history books, or they're trying to leave it to about one sentence, when we know that that was a detrimental like time for us. And there's a lot of stuff that happened that they're trying to leave out to try to, I don't know, I want to say Disney it in a sense, to make it look like it was like lighthearted just for American history. But like for us, like that was a really hard time, and some people are still affected by that now. So we need to know our history. We need to know what's going on, so that way we can continue to educate and grow amongst each other.
I agree. I definitely agree. Well,
Yes.
you have it's happening all over the country, especially in Florida, where we're not teaching CRT. Well, see, this is the thing about it. That is to stoke fear, because most people don't even know what CRT is. They don't know what it is, critical race theory. And it's not being taught in high school and on the high school level. I know it's not taught in elementary school. It's not taught in middle school. And I don't believe it's taught in high school. I think it is a special course that's taught in college, depends
Right.
on your degree. But to twist things up, to confuse people, to say, oh, that's bad. Give an example. There was this woman on TV, and she was talking about, uh, I just lost my health benefits because she voted against Obamacare. And she said, well, I like affordable action. I mean,
Mm.
what is it, affordable health care?
The Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, well, that was okay. Well, she didn't realize this is how society, I think as far as education on some levels or some people, it's just going absolutely backwards. She didn't like Obamacare, but she liked the Affordable Care Act. Well, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's it's the same thing. Now, why did they call it Obamacare? So people could hate it. And now it's being threatened. So you're going to have millions of people with no health care, okay? And they can't go to a private insurance company and get it, because especially if they have pre-existing conditions. So I think there is a play going on here now to try to dumb down society. And in many cases, they've done a really good job on keeping people ignorant. They've done that, and it's done on purpose. 47 was saying he liked. Didn't he say something about he likes the uneducated? Why would you say something like that? He's trying to destroy right now. They're working hard to destroy the Department of Education. They want to privatize education. So that's going to leave out a lot of people. A lot of people. Elon Musk is building more robots by the day. And so what's going to happen, the more robots you put in and more AI systems you use. Now, AI has its benefits, but it can also be used as an evil tool. Like I really like my navigation system in my car. Oh, I like that. Okay. I like spell check. I like that. But when you start replacing people with machines, because see, a lot of these greedy companies out here, they're thinking, well, if I get a robot, I don't have to pay health care, do I? I can buy me a robot for $20,000, $30,000, and I don't have to pay a salary. I don't have to worry about people taking lunch breaks. I don't have to worry about people showing up to work. I don't have to. And so there have been, I was reading something about a particular store that was unmanned completely.
Mm.
Unmanned completely. Okay, you swipe your card, and you go in and you pay everything with your card, right? And then you check yourself out. No employees.
Mm.
How many people could have had that job? Now, if you go to your local grocery store, like it's one that I use out here, Kroger's, for instance, or I might use something else. But anyway, you walk in there, and most of the checkout counters are unmanned. You self checkout.
Mm.
What happened to those people who had those jobs? Okay, they're inventing cars right now that don't need a driver, and they tested one in California.
They have them in California. I seen them. They're out in LA.
Out in LA.
Wasn't there a story about one of them that crashed? That was unmanned?
I think it was at the time when they first started out. You always got the trial and error ones, and then once they found out, they tweaked them a bit and perfected it. But now I see quite a few of them out in LA, and
Wow.
it's interesting because you'll think it's like someone just driving regularly, and then you look, and then there's no one in the car, like absolutely no one in the car.
Isn't that something?
Just moves on its own.
You take a city like New York that has thousands and thousands of cab drivers. Pretty soon they will be replaced. You think about that, okay? So many jobs that people are relying on. Anything from medicine to, like we mentioned, the grocery stores. We mentioned a lot of different things, and that people will replace. And so the logic, or what they try to play, says, well, there are thousands of jobs, thousands of more jobs that will be created because of AI. Well, guess what?
Mm.
That's going to need training. How long would it take people to catch up? How long would it take people to catch up or be retrained? Okay. You have some people who don't like computers. They like working with their hands. Okay. And there are many jobs out here like that. There are, and I know they're probably doing it here. I haven't heard much about it here. I know over in Germany, they are using AI to build buildings. So this going to cut down on the construction workers. What are those people supposed to do? What kind of job are they going to be trained to do? And how many of those jobs are going to be available? Because where it took 10 people to do this one job, now you only need maybe one robot or two robots.
You might have to go into entrepreneurship and create your own business.
No, I think there's a viable option there. And in some cases, that's what we're going to have to do. So we really have to pay attention. Let me get to this other one. And this gentleman, we had him on the program, and Robert was here. Nakai, I wish you were with us at that time, but this gentleman is a groove. And let's talk about Mr. Former Congressman G.K. Butterfield, George Kenneth Butterfield Jr., born 1920, April 7th, 27th, right? 1947, is an American lawyer and politician who served as a U.S. Representative for North Carolina's 1st congressional district. Nakai, if you could see that, I'd like for you to continue to read that.
Making sure I'm going to it. He said, "As an American lawyer and politician who served the U.S. representative for North Carolina's 1st congressional district from 2004 to 2022, a member of the Democratic Party. He was first elected in a special election after the resignation of Frank Vallant." Am I reading that right? Yes.
Yes, balance. Yeah.
Okay. His district was in the state's northeastern corner, which included all or parts of 19 countries. A longtime advocate of civil rights, Butterfield was appointed an Associate Justice of the North Carolina Supreme Court by Governor Mike Easley in 2001, retaining the position until 2003. He was a member of the Congressional Black Caucus and served as its chair from 2015 to 2017. In November 2021, Butterfield announced that he would not run for re-election in 2022. On December 30th, 2022, Butterfield resigned from his position, taking up a lobbying position.
Okay.
I'll continue on in early life and education?
Yes, please.
No problem. G.K. Butterfield was born and raised in then segregated city of Wilson, North Carolina. Butterfield became a prominent Black family with a long history in North Carolina. Both of Butterfield's parents were mixed-race Americans. His maternal grandfather, Reverend Fred Davis, was a child of a former slave, Judah Davis, and a white man, Joe Davis. His mother, Addie, taught elementary school for 48 years in some of North Carolina's poorest communities. She was keenly focused on ensuring that her students learned to read. Butterfield's father, G.K. Butterfield Sr., was an immigrant from Bermuda. And as a graduate of Meharry's Medical College, hope I'm saying that correctly, he practiced dentistry for 50 years in the poor, segregated communities of East Wilson. In the late 1940s, he helped found Wilson branch of the NAACP, or today we'll call it the NAABP, in order to register Black voters in the country. In 1953, he became the first African American elected to the city council in Wilson and the first Black elected official in Eastern North Carolina since Reconstruction. Butterfield graduated from Charles H. Darden High School in Wilson. He went on to earn a Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science and Sociology from North Carolina Central University, a historical Black university. During his time in NCCU, Butterfield was active in voter registration activism, including coordinating voter registration drives in Durham and organizing a student march from the state capitol in, is that Raleigh? Am I saying that right?
Raleigh.
Oh,
Raleigh. Oh, sorry.
That's
In
okay.
Raleigh to the Wilson County Courthouse to draw attention to the importance of voter registration. After completing his bachelor's degree, Butterfield attended the NCCU School of Law, receiving a Juris Doctor degree in 1974. During his junior year in NCCU, Butterfield was drafted into the United States Army and stationed at Fort Bragg Army Installation at Fayetteville.
Yeah.
He served from 1968 to 1970 and was honorably discharged, and he returned to NCCU to complete his undergraduate degree. In describing his racial identity as a Black man, he has pointed to his African heritage as a direct descendant of enslaved people. He grew up in a racially segregated North Carolina, living in East Wilson, where he attended Black schools. He spent his childhood as a firsthand witness to the disenfranchisement of his Black community, originating as a part of a targeted campaign to remove his father from the board of aldermen. He is a former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus.
Wow. Okay, we can stop right there for a second. We can stop right there. G.K. Butterfield and Robert, he was on the show, and Tiffany was on the show too when he came on, along with Mildred Council. Matter of fact, we should be honoring Mildred as well. She's done so much for the. Let's see, is she in Raleigh? Or where's she?
She's in Greenville,
Okay.
North Carolina.
She's done
It's
so
like
many.
30 minutes from Wilson.
Right. And wasn't she instrumental in putting a hospital there? I knew she was instrumental in putting a hospital or help building a hospital somewhere. And she's a swing.
I don't know if it was a hospital. I think it's some sort of physician's office. I can't say for certain.
Okay,
Right,
we're
right
going to fact check that, and perhaps we can get her on this month. And this is what I want to do. We're almost at the end of the program. So what we're going to do throughout the month, we're going to celebrate our Black history. And in the beginning of the program, for those who just joined, who have joined since, we're going to talk about Charles Drew. Okay, Daniel Hill Williams, Henry T. Sampson, Katherine Johnson. In case you don't know who Catherine is, she worked for NASA. She was recruited by NASA, and she was very, very instrumental in the critical procedures, or let's see, critical calculations for NASA to help with successful flights, manned flights. Okay, we're going to talk about Garrett Morgan and Elijah McCoy. There are so many people. Oh, Rock was saying, "Hey, Rock." Oh, again, I want to thank Rock because she works tirelessly behind the scenes, helping make this show a success. So thank you so much, Rock. We couldn't do this without you. We have to get Rock on one day. She's been, hey, Robert, what episode is this? Is this number 50?
51?
It's 51.
51. Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Matter of fact, we started in February of 2024 during Black History Month. And so that's why I love talking about it. I think that we're going to talk about it. And I hope others are inspired by this. What I wanted to do, our guest, she was running late, and I don't think she wasn't able to make it on. But what we wanted to do today, the first half was going to be on Black history, and the second half we want to talk about mental illness. And so to give you a little information here, the first Black pioneer in psychiatry, let's see, the first Black mental health professional was Solomon Carter Fuller, MD, from 1972 to 1953. Born in 72, passed in 1953. Solomon Carter, rather, Fuller was the first Black psychiatrist in the United States, and he was selected by Dr. Alois, Alois, Alzheimer. I think that's where the name Alzheimer's came from, to join him as a research assistant in his lab in Munich, Germany. There, Dr. Fuller conducted research on brain samples from Alzheimer's patients. Okay. Observing the physical impact of the disease of the brain. Okay. Like I said, Dr. Solomon Carter Fuller. All right. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Let's see. Who is the most famous Black psychiatrist? Okay, there were 8. We're not going to go through all of those. We'll pick up more of this next week. Nakaya, any final thoughts?
I just think that us as Black people are amazing. We're beautiful. We are so intelligent. We're talented. We're skilled. We're very innovative. And just going through just a few people that we went through within this hour, I'm excited to know about more of the mental health side of it all. You mentioned Charles Drew, which is interesting because we actually have a Charles Drew University out here in Los Angeles, and it is actually it's a medical school and it's predominantly Black.
Matter of fact, I know where it is. It's in the Inglewood area, isn't it?
I'm partnering with them because they're supposed to be having a health exposition, and I'm supposed to be presenting about physical health since I'm a trainer there. So I think that's February 27th. So I'm excited. So for you to bring that up, I was kind of like, oh yeah.
I'm excited for you. Yeah, I know exactly where it is. I've been there before. I used to work in that area, and I believe it's right in the Inglewood area, isn't it? Yep, sure is. Oh boy, but Charles Drew Medical Center, I forgot all about that. So we're going to talk about so much coming up. I'm excited about it. I want to thank all of you guys, man. Thank you so much for your participation. Tiffany, any final thought?
No, I'm just extremely excited. I know we had talked about Deborah's and Aaron's father and grandfather, but Deborah's grandfather, Aaron's great grandfather, I don't know if you covered this, was also he was one of the men that helped build the first Black bank in the Raleigh-Durham area as well, and it's still open to this day.
No, we didn't cover that. We did not cover that. So there's so much to cover. Our history is so rich. And you're right. We are beautiful people. And the thing that we need to remind ourselves is that we are. Don't let anybody take that away from you. And be inspired. Check out programs like this. Programs just want to educate you because you have, like I said, powers out there that want to take it away. And you have to ask yourself the question, why? Unless I'm a threat to you, unless you think that I'm smarter than you, not unless you think that I'm going to take something away from you, as far as jobs, opportunities, and whatever it is. Interesting. However, they want to gaslight you, and don't fall for what they say, the okie doke. Don't fall for it. Robert, any final thought?
The idea is basically this, and thank you for everyone being on here tonight. The idea of there is no American history without Black history.
Amen.
We are woven into the fabric of a lot of things that you have here today. When it comes down to science, when it comes down to medicine, when it comes down to theology, when it comes down to engineering, architecture, song, and more than just song and more than entertainment and more than just sports. There is also the aspect of education. Take Black history away, you really don't have anything.
That's right.
The idea is make sure that you teach it, even if you have to teach it at home, at least make sure that it is mentioned and making sure that we're going to be around a lot longer than you think. So make sure you just buckle up.
Yep. We were here before and we're going to be here today.
Be here again.
That's right. Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much. A very enlightened program. I really, really enjoyed it. And tell your friends, tune in next week. We're going to come up with more Black history, more facts, and you'll get it right here on Studio W. The Buzz. Groove Swing Speaks, coming to you each and every Tuesday, 4 p.m. on the West, 7 p.m. on the East. Hey, thank you, guys. Enjoy.